Hey, welcome back everybody. Today we are going to finish this Savage Arms 22 rifle build, I hope. I'll bring you in close, I'll show you what we got going on for today. We got the West Hunter rings I showed you in the last video. We've got the Arca Swiss rail from Amazon to slap on there. We got the cheek riser to put on. And I have this bubble level that was sent to me. We'll slap that on. And I might just lap the rings. I brought out my 2 lapping bars for 34 millimeter. We're just gonna see how good West Hunter does, I guess. I don't know, I shouldn't even do it, but I'm going to. So we got everything set up to modify and to mount. We'll go over that in this video today, so stay tuned. So up first, I'd like to apologize for any noise. That's my son Hudson in the background just playing around tinkering. So if you hear any banging or crashing noises, it's just him learning what not to get into. So probably number one for today is we're gonna start with the rail, because then I can still flip the gun upside down and modify it. I will attach a picture on how the bedding of this action went. It went really well. I did have to rework a little bit of it off camera. As far as using my router to remove some material that had kind of drizzled as I pulled the action out while it was still a little gooey. But now, I mean, everything goes really well. I Loctited these action screws down to 25 inch-pounds. I did notice there's a slight bind on the action when I went above that, like 35-ish, and it's still not quite as smooth as it is out of the action. But it is very close to how it felt normally. And some of that bind, I might add, is the extractor work I did. I raised the extractor because before I raised it, I was not able to eject a shell. So I must have knocked it down when I was doing some stuff. So I just took a screwdriver and lifted it up a little bit. So now I'm having a slight bind on the bolt. It just rubs all the way along the raceway. So that's where some of that bind is. So it's not in the action necessarily anymore, but there is a little bit of a bind compared to how it used to be. So we're gonna flip this over. We'll get started on adding this Arca rail. This is gonna go face down to the stock, and I'm going to take out the sling swivel stud, and we're probably going to mount this just in front of this floor plate here and do something like that. So I'm gonna get my grinder out with the flap disc. We're gonna probably try to flat this a little bit. Then I have some self-tapping screws I'll probably use because they're aggressive thread to anchor this to that. And I think they can sit recessed enough. If not, I'll have to touch them up with a grinder. All right, so I've gotten my 4 self-tappers and I ground down the head so they'll fit flush. And I never did check them, so that's probably a dumb idea, but I went down where I thought was good enough. Got our first hole drilled in the center. See if we can get these in. Now I don't have an impact driver bit with a 3/8 head on it, so I gotta do everything by hand, which I almost prefer for something like this so I can feel the tightness. Center this up. Right there. We're not gonna go too crazy tight until we get them all in so I can still move the rail around. But I'm gonna continue to drill a full, I'm probably gonna put 2 here, 1 there, call it good. So I might take the rifle back out of the action just to add some of this super glue from the top into the hole to kind of help fill them, give them a little bit of a seal. Try to super glue my hands together. This one I used the gun for because the hole wasn't perfectly lined up because I moved on me. And that hole there, epoxy is probably not the best compound to use, or I'm sorry, yeah, epoxy. Screws don't have a whole lot of strength in the thread, so that's why I'm doing the super glue, and one of the holes I did blow out with the spade bit on it, so we're gonna let that sit for a few minutes, let it harden. I'm gonna take this rifle back out of the barreled action out of the stock, and then we are going to add super glue from the top, let that harden, then we'll finish on to the next part of the video. So here you can see the holes that were drilled, and you can see how clear it is. The black just shows that there's, you know, stock material behind it still. But yeah, I ground this stock all the way down until we got to epoxy just so I knew I was flush and flat, and I can't see daylight. Oops, put that in frame. Can't see daylight underneath the rails, so it really don't look bad. It is a little bit wider than the stock, but not by much. You know, the front tapers a little bit, so you can kind of see it there, but it's not bad. And that will give me something wide to put the rifle onto to kind of do that. So we're just going to fill the holes up with super glue. Add some strength, you know, let's kind of sit into the threads, and I can see how far my screws came, and it looks to me like I could have went even 1/4 of an inch more before even getting close to breaking out of this epoxy. I just didn't want to hit my barrel. You really can't see it unless you're looking right at it very well, but yeah, I could have went 1/4 inch longer. We're just going to leave it. We filled the holes back up. We'll let this thing sit outside of the barrel, and I might consider bluing this thing. I mean, I think it's, I don't know if it's supposed to be a stainless finish and somebody just like sanded everything off, because I got surface rust, but I got some kind of gloss finish that looks like it was put on by somebody, because you can see it's all clean here and rusty there. But we might blue this action later, you know, another day down the road when I got more time, but for now we'll let that sit. We'll come back. All right, so now that that super glue has dried, I got the rifle back in, torqued down, the action torqued down to spec to the stock. I went through, took out the spacers inside of these West Hunter rings because they came fitted with the 30mm sleeves. Taken all the screws off, and what I've done is, you see I got 2 marks here. Well, I've taken the caps, tops, and marked them up so that way I know how they were machined per se. They actually did it that way. We're going to attach them to the rifle. We're going to super glue all the screws down. I'm going to skip all of this on camera because you guys have seen this on other videos if you have followed any of my content. Basically mount them to the rail, lock them down with the inside set screw, torque those to spec, get the widest stance we can on this dovetail because we don't have a lot of room really to pick around on where we want to mount this thing. We only got this little space in between to put this big old objective, not objective, but this big old housing here. So I've already test fitted to make sure that the 56mm objective would clear. These are the high rings. We're going to mount that down and lock everything down. They'll come back, we'll throw the lap bars on there and see how well they do. So there you have it. The West Hunter rings do not quite line up like they should. The points are just a little off. So we're going to lap these because I actually could feel them bind on my rifle scope. So I've got my 34mm lapping bar here, lapping compound, handle, and we're going to pull these out, start lapping them. So to basically go over how I do it, even though you can find it on other videos, I take a little bit of lapping compound on my finger and I get it just on the scope, lower rings and obviously and upper rings, just a little bit. Most of the time it's just the finish, the anodizing that they do has always been the thing. I can't say I've never. I think I have taken just a touch of aluminum out before, but not by much. So we're just going to coat these evenly, a thin coat. We can add more if we need, hopefully not. Lapping takes some time. You don't want to be in a hurry when you do this. We'll get up in here, and I don't put anything here because that obviously ain't going to help with anything. Remember, I marked them, so they're gonna go right back where they go, so they're machined set after we're done. You typically don't have to lap high quality rings. I've seen the loophole on my 300 PRC. Those came in absolutely perfect. The Arcans, the one piece rigid precision mount, I didn't have to lap those. Those came in perfect for me. So once I learned that a company does good enough, I just don't even check, to be honest. I get a little lazy on my part, but I just don't check. So those are good to go. We'll slap this guy in here and we'll start lapping. So when I get ready to lap, what I do is I just get my rings, the gap equal on both sides. And I don't tighten really anything down. You hardly can snug these screws because the lapping compound will basically act as a sandpaper-ish contact. You know, it makes it so rough and hard. So that's all we're gonna do. We're gonna twist it and push it and pull it. All right, so now I've wiped all that compound out with just a dry towel. I'm gonna take some CLP, add just a little bit, kind of butterfly the towel a little bit. And this will help remove the rest of it because we want these to be clean when we put our test pins in, because we need to make sure we're getting an accurate reading here. So I clean these up really, really good. I mean, you can probably do some alcohol or something, rubbing alcohol, but I don't have any. But you can see right there just what we were cutting. I mean, see where we didn't even touch. So we don't even have full contact yet. So I already know just by looking at that, we have to redo these rings. So I'm just gonna clean this up. We'll add some more lapping compound till we get full contact on the rings and just keep on going. All right, so here we have it. This took a minute to find out how to level this scope because I'm so used to dealing with Picatinny that I have something flat to base it off of. So what I did, and I'll tell you because you might need to figure it out too, is I've got my precision level. The one that my Wheeler scope leveling kit comes with is plastic. This is aluminum and it's been finished. So it's more accurate than this supposedly, but I just use this one regardless because I just feel better. Anyways, there's no real good flat spot on this rifle to get my barrel level to. So what I've done, what I did, let's set this here, see how she balances out, is I came off this flat spot here, which really doesn't mean anything because they might not have finished that truly 90 degrees to the action. My kit includes this, which is supposed to stick into there, which I've never done, but when I stick it in there, it wants to go up like this. I know that's not level. So I found a combination of checking it here and reading level off of this, like rocking it till I found it line up square. And then coming over here to this dovetail, putting this on there, it kind of cocked it like this, but then I was able to kind of find center this way till it was flat, and they both lined up, because I got two of these. Both lined up, so then I added this guy here to that to reference off of once I got the scope mounted. So that's how I did it. I don't know of any other way. If you do, let me know, but that seems to have worked. This guy goes here. So just checked it. Once I got this leveled, I checked the reticle to a plumb bob I have hanging across the wall there. It's a permanent plumb bob. I use that all the time for scope leveling because I'm always swapping scopes around on rifles. So there she is. Now she looks like a rifle. All right, so now what's next for this rifle would be the cheek riser. Now I poured the epoxy into the stock 2 full days ago, and I've had it sitting by my wood stove trying to cure. So that's a lot of epoxy in there. This rifle has some heft to it now. It's not nowhere near as heavy as that Bergara. That Bergara probably weighs 12 pounds or something, but this thing here has got some heft to it. So I had some super glue run out on the bottom there. But yeah, I think it looks pretty cool. It's starting to come along. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna drill into here. Hopefully the epoxy's hard, doesn't come spilling back out, but we're gonna find out. So that will be what's next. All right, so I put my head up and down on the stock a few times to figure out where I want it, and then I held the position with one hand, and I marked the distance of my cheek across the stock, giving me a little bit of room to play with. Now we're going to line this up, center it kind of best in that area. Put the thumb nuts away from us, and we're gonna drill and tap that. So it'll probably, I tested this fit a little bit, and I really don't need much of a cheek riser. I really don't. The way we have the scope mounted now, it's so much lower than what the other one was. So we're sitting pretty good, but if I want to be really, really good, I want to have that cheek be able to be naturally placed and feel comfortable, so that's what I'm going to do. So we're still going to add this. We bought it, we might as well, and it'll be the first time I ever did this, so it'd be a good little learning experience for me. But so this is a little sneak peek, I guess, of what it's going to look like, so it won't look too bad. Probably blocked the entire shot for that, I apologize. But there's my 2 holes, and the epoxy is still setting up. It's kind of like in a gel form. It's not wet, it's not gonna run out, but it is not hard. So, I think it'll be fine either way, because once those screws are in, they're staying in. I drilled a touch oversized just for this, so they can slide in there. I might have to go bigger. Yeah, nothing's even sticking to the bolt, so I think we're gonna be okay. But now I need to clean those holes out because some of this stuff here, I mean, it's not wet, it's not even really gooey. It kind of is, I guess, but this drill might be hot too. Yeah, Hudson? Yeah? And I split this cheek riser between the center, there we go. Push these things through. Hopefully the hole is drilled straight enough to line up on the other end. Yep, so far, that's one. So I can unblock this here. It's the struggles of being your own photographer. Bring you guys in close, this is pretty cool for me. I mean, this is exciting. I mean, this is a cheap rifle that I would never have thought twice about doing this to. So, the fact that I'm actually doing this, tell you what, let me throw this in my tripod. This will be even better yet. I got too many of these things laying around, I might as well use them. Test out our new Arca Swiss. Clamp that down. There we go. So, I mean, this is pretty sweet. So we'll just pan this rifle and pan this camera. We're taking this shooting Wednesday, so I'll be able to test it then. And I took both these, and you can tell, man, they drilled at quite an angle. I might have to cut these bolts down because they are a little long. But you know, now I have a nice natural cheek weld. I mean, I'm going to play with this a little bit, but here's kind of the whole fit and finish of this rifle. I mean, this is complete now. It's kind of sad. It's kind of fun. And this took over 2 weeks to do, by the way, because I work a lot of hours at my job, and I usually get impatient, but I did not want to rush this. And I did rush a few things, but they ended up turning out to be okay. So this is it. We're gonna go shooting it next, and I hope to bring some footage of that in the next video of how well does it group, because I talked about binding on this action a little bit. We might have to play around with our torque here, torque values on those action screws to see just how well it shoots and how much that binding is affecting the accuracy, if at all. So thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe. Hopefully I'll be able to do more stuff. I have a few other rifles that I might do this to, providing I like how it goes. And we will come back and give a total cost breakdown of what this costs to do all of this. So also did want to mention, for those of you that probably caught it, is this is not the Element Nexus scope, or not Nexus, what was it? Whatever it was, the Element scope that I had in the first place, because I got to thinking, this scope here, this is the Strike Eagle, the Vortex Strike Eagle. It's a 34mm main tube. It has a parallax that can run down to 15 yards, and that's really important on these shoots. Sometimes these Arcans and other stuff, I can't get them to focus in at that range, so I can't see my crosshairs, are very blurry. I don't like this scope a lot. That's a problem. I paid, you know, $200-300 more than I did in Arca, and maybe even more actually back in the day. But these knobs are just stiff. This parallax is stiff. The glass is decent. The turrets are mushy. But honestly, they almost seem to be better than the Elements. So we're just gonna play. This is pretty smooth. Play around with it a little bit. One thing I don't like about this, I think, if I remember correctly, is with the zero stop added in this, you lose like 20 minutes of elevation or something like that. So I think it only goes to like 86 with that zero stop in there. And I want a zero stop, but I might have to remove it because we shoot out to 300 yards at one of the ranges I'm going to. So I need to have that opportunity, the availability. I don't want to hold over unless I have to. And I'd like to have the dial to go out to 300, So yeah, up next we'll be shooting it. I'll have that in a separate video. We'll do some groups at 50 yards. We'll probably try some 100-yard groups, and we'll just see how everything holds up. I will try to do some PRS style shooting off of barricades and stuff. We'll see how slapping this gun does, how well this scope does. I haven't really slapped this scope around a lot. It's been on my 300 PRC, which has got a lot of recoil, but it's held up to that just fine. It's actually been mounted on that gun for probably 3 years, never taken it off. So yeah, this is the end of the build for this rifle as of now. We'll come back and possibly look at bluing everything, just trying to blue it. I've never done it, so I thought it'd be kind of fun. This is a good rifle to try it on, and yeah. So if you guys have anything you guys want to see, please let me know, and I will try to address that or show you guys that. Thanks for watching.